People often ask how we appeared on the eastern shore of the Baltic Sea. They're interested in where we came from, who and what we were. If I take a glance at the past and try to recall my ancestors, this will come to nothing. It all happened too long ago. But they say that people like me appeared on the earth about 40,000 to 30,000 years before Christ. The settlement of my ancestors was first found in the Cro-Magnon cave, which is located in the south of France. Cro-Magnons spread everywhere where there was no glacier. We moved to the foggy Albion, inhabited the Pyrenees, Apennines, Balkans, and the Alps, traveled to Siberia, and even as far as Asia and Africa. Prior to the time when in around 10,000 BC we turned to the new land on the eastern shore of the Baltic Sea, we had developed and disseminated the new culture of European people. On the eve of our resettlement on the eastern shore of the Baltic Sea, we were quite proficient in the Stone Age technologies, which were given the generic name of Magdalene culture. We were expert hunters and fishermen, produced stone and horn tools, as well as armaments, knives, daggers, and tridents. We knew how to tan furs and hides, to build warm places of abode, to produce clothes and footwear. We knew the world of beasts, birds, and fish perfectly. We knew about stars and used them while traveling. We had a lunar calendar, our individual faiths and rituals. We had marvelous artists, wise leaders, far-sighted priests, and expert prophets. For a long time, the glacier prevented us from inhabiting new lands. The guardians of our memory, priests, remember bits and pieces related to the earlier trips of Cro-Magnons behind the receding glacier. This, however, as if being alive, was receding here to the north and there to the south. That is why even we, their posterity and first hunters of the Baltic coast, failed to come across ancient campsites. Everything had been swept away by kilometer-long glaciers. Once I could hear a priest telling how, all of a sudden, the earth grew warm, and you could see with the naked eye how ice thawed, how rivers and lakes swelled. Our prey, cold-loving mammoths and reindeer, followed the glacier. We Magdalene hunters, who were in the closest proximity to the glacier edge, which today is called Jutland Peninsula, followed it as well. From its southern edge, we went in the direction of the east. Numerous generations and families of Magdalene hunters trod these tracks. Centuries passed, the first tracks were long ago forgotten before we reached this region and created for ourselves our new homeland. We Magdalene hunters are considered to be the first people on the eastern shore of the Baltic Sea. On our way to the new land, we managed to preserve our culture and our customs. In the new place, we again were the same Magdalene hunters, so we assumed the name of Magdalene culture among the Baltic region people. I am not able to tell you how numerous we were. Perhaps some tens of thousands, perhaps several thousand, but we lived in small communities. The rhythm of our life was determined by the nature of the game we hunted and technological differences, by tribal traditions. Learned men are able to differentiate those traditions, and our communities were given names according to the birthplace, depending on where we were born: Ahrensburg, Brome, Lungbu, Federmesser or Hamburg. We did not have to wait long for the inflow into our regions of a tribe from the northern edge of Central Europe, which upheld different traditions. Your people call them the people of Swiderian culture. There was no great difference between us. Perhaps different was only the fact that Swiderian people preferred flint and not bone armaments or tools. Their arrowheads were longer than ours, and they used oblong scrapers and grazing tools to process furs and hides. The climate was changing. Winters grew milder, in summer deciduous trees grew their foliage, many beasts from warmer regions came to live in our woods. The land we inhabited raised new generations of people, and our life rhythm, be it Maglemo, Sekunda or Nemunas culture people, was similar. We had our hunting grounds, watering places and woods, lived in pair families, and chose our wives from the neighboring communities. We worshipped our tribe totem and looked diligently after the site where his figure stood. Here we used to ask for his favor and permission to kill a beast before setting out to hunt. We brought our offerings here. In his presence, boys became hunters and girls became wives, and the look of the tribe's patron accompanied a hunter in his ultimate trip to the silent world. Our everyday life took its ordinary course. On the Baltic coast, we settled in the wind-protected lagoons, on the shores and banks of bigger or smaller rivers or lakes, everywhere where water was full of fish and there were lots of beasts in the woods. We built our dwelling places on the shores or even in the lagoons on poles, equipped them with the barriers against the enemies of our community as well as other fortifications, used wood, bone and horn to produce armaments, but most of all we liked flint. We began mining flint and started trading in it with faraway countries. From them we received a different sort of flint than ours, and decoration articles made of bones of unfamiliar animals. In a word, life was moving forward quickly. Living like this, we failed to notice that our technologies grew more and more sophisticated, and our people more inventive. We learned to keep the memory of our men and women. We started building eternal homes for them. We safeguarded our historical and scholarly knowledge, which our priests and prophets passed on from generation to generation. Little by little, Kunda culture people were substituted by Narva culture people, and the old Nemunas culture turned into the modern New Stone Age culture. The year 3000 approached. Our life rapidly moved on. First people, which you define as globular amphora culture people, appeared and brought with them new modes of production and new customs.